We'll charge over in the lost. Never let my Maryland, thy gleaming sword will never cross. Maryland, my Maryland, remember carols sacred trust. Remember Howard's warlike cross, and all thy slumbers with the just. Maryland, my Maryland.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Right at the Wire. Well, I hope Maryland, my Maryland got you pumped up for the Preakness if you weren't already. We've covered all the elements of handicapping: form, class, speed, and pace for the Preakness. Now it's time to put them all together in a final assessment. And at the conclusion, I'll give you how I'm going to play the race, and maybe that'll give you some insight on how you want to formulate your tickets. So here we go. So here we go with part 5. It is our final assessment of Preakness 149 based on our work on the elements of handicapping. And we'll start with Mugatu. He'll be closing at 20-1. And we take a look and we see his form was a -1, class a +1, speed minus 13.14, pace plus 42 and 0.42. And for progression, I think he'll move ahead in this race. I'm just not sure how much it will be and if it or not it's going to be competitive. I'm guessing it's probably not going to be. Race shape's not going to set up terribly well for closers. And as we noted in the pace section of our handicapping, it really does look like this horse is working kind of hard just to keep up. So with the step up in class, I think that might spell doom. So he gets in a minus 11.72, and I could see him maybe at the bottom of the superfecta because he will keep running, but that would be the extent of my interest. So now we have Uncle Heavy, another closer at 20-1, and we see form. It's pretty much the same story as it was with Mugatu. I know a lot of people are kind of high on this horse, but and maybe he did have an excuse in the Wood Memorial with deposition going down. It may have impacted things a little bit, but I really thought he should have run better in that race. Now, Butch Reed is good at shipping horses, and it is possible that, again, this one being at the back will keep running, and maybe the bottom of the super, but again, I think a move forward is possible, but that would be the extent of my interest. And he gets a minus 15.92, and I believe that's the lowest score of all the horses, particularly, I just don't, I don't see much from Uncle Heavy. So we come to Catching Freedom, coming off a good run in the Derby. He's got a good, positives all the way around. I am considering this a positive that Brad Cox is running this horse. He doesn't do it terribly often. But by all accounts, this horse is just really full of himself and really on the bridle and sharp. So I'm expecting a pretty good race. My one concern with Catching Freedom is I think he's going to have to be a little more forwardly placed than he normally is, and that he may not. It may sap his late kick. Which makes him such a good horse, and running out of his element. If you can think about Red Route 1 when he's tried to do it, or Angel of Empire last year in the Belmont. So that's a bit of a concern to me with Catching Freedom. I think he's going to factor in this race. He could very well win it. It's entirely possible, and I think he's a major player in here. So now we come to Mystic Dan, the horse on everybody's lips, and what are you going to do with him? Okay, we looked at him and he fits here. There's no doubt about it. Speed-wise, he certainly fits here. Pace-wise, that last fraction does bother me, and that Derby, watching him beg for the finish like he did, he does cut back a little bit in distance, so that's a help for sure. But the body language from Kenny McPeak says that he's not overly confident with this horse, and he's normally extremely confident. This horse has run once before in 2 weeks rest, and it didn't work out terribly well. He does get a positive score, 19.19, and that is one of the better ones here. And I certainly think, based upon his quality and his speed, I think he can stay in the race. I'm just not that confident with him getting on top for the win. So I know a lot of people want that because you have the Triple Crown going to Saratoga in line, but I'm not really seeing it. So I think a use under is certainly possible. Sees the Gray as the Pat Day Mile winner, and he's going back to 2 turns where had mixed results. He had a pretty good effort in the Jeff Ruby, but not so great in the Bluegrass Stakes. He's coming back on, this is his 4th race in 2 months. That's a lot. We know the coach likes to run him. There's some positives for sure. The speed figures, he needs to get faster. There's no doubt about that, and that's reflective in the score. Pace-wise, it was based on the synthetic, so we have to remember that. But I think this horse could be a fit here. I'm not overly certain he's making a move forward. I'm going to give him a +1 because really that's for the coach more than anything else. You see the speed score really kind of deep 6s the rest of his numbers, so he does get a negative score, but I could certainly Seize the Gray, particularly since he will be forwardly placed, which I think is going to be the place to be in this race. I could see him factoring, and at 15-1, you are getting a pretty good price. A use underneath, not very certain about a win possibility. Just Steel, I think is I like this horse. I've said that all along. I've loved the way he's progressed. Obviously, he bombed out in the Derby. This horse can run better than that, and he does have a zigzag pattern to tell you that this could be a good race. However, he's run a lot this year, and it may have caught up with him in the Derby because sometimes when, I mentioned it before, sometimes when horses are needing a break, they'll get very sharp early in a race and then just back right up. And so that is a concern. Everything else is a fit. If he runs back to that Arkansas Derby, he's certainly competitive here. And again, I'll give him +1 for the coach, and he certainly is a fit in this field. Getting him on top, not so certain about that. So I think, but given the quality of this field, I think race shape-wise, I think he can fit in this field, and I will use him. Now we come to Tuscan Gold, the hot horse. Everybody's talking about him, and I think rightfully so. I think his form is very good coming into this race. He's coming on fresh legs, which I think is very vital to this particular Preakness. I think he's a class fit here. I think he's definitely going to move forward. He does need to get a little faster. Excuse me. There's no doubt about that. But if you looked at his pace numbers, as we did, he manages his speed very well. I think this is a horse who can be more forwardly placed, and I think he will be. And Chad Brown does very well in the Preakness, and he does point horses to it. So I think there's a lot of positives from Tuscan Gold, and I am definitely going to use him, and I think he's a prime win candidate. Imagination, the other Bob Baffert, who is now the Bob Baffert. This one, boy, it's tough to read him, really, isn't it? You look at him and the way he runs, he seems to wait for horses. And I mentioned earlier in the year with Dornoch, that was not something I liked about him at all. And now he's stepping up into a true Grade 1. It's certainly the biggest class test he's had to date. That is the thing that concerns me the most. 4 seconds and a horse who waits for other horses. Now, he has quality. There's no doubt about it. He is probably getting better. He needs to mature mentally. He reminds me very much of Fort Bragg, but you know what? In the Pat Day Mile, Fort Bragg ran a hell of a race and really put it together. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. He needs to get faster. There's no doubt about it. I think he's going to be on the engine, and he will be the pace setter. And, if you get some of those horses coming off the Derby who aren't quite up to snuff, he could steal this race. It's entirely possible. But, again, there's a lot of ifs here, even though he's a Bob Baffert. I think he'll be primed for the race. I think he'll be in good condition, ready to run a big one. The question will be whether or not it's good enough. So we look at the overall standings, and you see that Just Steel, oddly, or Catching Freedom, is the leader. And a lot of that has to do with the amount of significant races he's run. Same thing with Just Steel. But their class is, they are 2 of the classier horses in this race, so that's not a big surprise. I could certainly see Catching Freedom winning this race. It's entirely possible, but the race shape, I think, is a little bit against him here. Just Steel, I'm worried about that he's run a lot this year and whether or not he can put a maximum effort together, because he would need it. If he could run an Arkansas Derby, it would be, I think he could win the race with it, but he's going to need to do that, and I think there's a little bit of doubt. The closers, I just don't think this race sets up well at all for Mugatu or Uncle Heavy, but you know what? One of them could clunk up for fourth in the Preakness, and you're going to get odds with either one of them. So that's the way it came out. I mean, I think Seize the Gray, maybe is a little that score maybe isn't reflective. Maybe his chances are a little better than that, but not terribly much. And Mystic Dan, I don't know that his chances are quite as good. I don't know. Maybe it comes out about right for Mystic Dan. Somewhere around third or fourth is where in this race I would put him. So that's how our four elements of handicapping came out. These are the scores. So we take a look at the wagering strategy. My pick is Tuscan Gold. I don't think that's any surprise to any of you. I really like this horse coming into this race. I am going to bet him to win. I want 3-1 or better, and that may be a tall order. I have a feeling he's going to drift up or down, however you look at the odds. I think Mystic Dan's going to be very short for this race, and that makes him very unappealing. However, I think he can factor in this race for sure. So what we'll do is we'll bet Tuscan Gold to win, and then we'll use cold exactas with 3, 5, 6, and 7, all different degrees of interest there. It'll be based upon the odds and how everything turns out at post time. But that's pretty much what I'm going to do. And then I'll put one with 8 on top with 3, 5, 6, 7. The trifecta, we'll just go 8. We're going to key the 8 with 3, 5, 6, 7. Nothing fancy. Just go for it there and see what happens. Again, the late runners, I'm really not liking in this race. But for the superfecta, we're going to put the 8 on top. We're going to use 3, 5, 6, 7, 3, 5, 6, 7, and then we'll go all in the hope that we get one of the closers to come up at really big odds. And so that's the way we see the Preakness, and that's how I'm going to play it. I think Tuscan Gold is the horse to beat. So that's our elements of handicapping, and I think Tuscan Gold is the one that they're all going to have to catch, the one they're going to beat in the Preakness. I think it's an interesting race. Losing Muth really shakes things up quite a bit, and I do think there's a couple of different ways you can go. Catching Freedom is a little bit of a concern. He could run a big one and just blow this field away, but I really think Tuscan Gold is the one that looks the most solid to me, and he is my selection. Hope our analysis helps you with your own wagering strategy, as we say, and I wish you the best of luck on Preakness Day. I think it's going to be a fun day. It always is. I want to thank all of you who have stuck around for all of our elements of handicapping for the Derby as well as the Preakness, and we will do it for the Belmont, so you have that to look forward to, and we'll continue with content throughout the rest of the Triple Crown and going into Saratoga and Del Mar as well as the rest of the thoroughbred racing season. So stay right here right at the wire. And again, thanks to all of you who have recently come on board. Very happy to have you in the community. It's growing, and I'm really loving it. I really appreciate your comments. I really do. The majority are positive, and I very much appreciate it. It is not easy to put this kind of time in to do these things, so I thank you very much for those who have acknowledged it. It is a labor of love. I love doing this, and I hope you enjoy the fruits of my labor. So thanks again to all of you. I'll talk to you soon, and until then, be well.